When you think of horrifying Jurassic Park media, your thoughts immediately go to the deaths in the novels, right? A great example is Dennis Nedry's death in the novel, where he gets attacked by a dilophosaurus, his belly split open, where he's desperately trying to hold his intestines back in. Or perhaps it's Dr. Wu's, where he himself gets set upon by a pack of raptors, and he desperately tries to wrestle his own intestines back from the jaws of a velociraptor. While these are horrifying and gruesome in themselves, nothing compares to what I'm about to talk about today. These deaths are seemingly forgotten, lost to the dark abyss, and were never shown in the movies and rarely even talked about from the novels. Many people remember the deaths from the Jurassic Park novel, that's right, but no one really talks about these deaths after the Jurassic Park novel, and that's what we're going to be covering today. Horrifying Jurassic Park media that will definitely give you nightmares. And immediately, I'd like to talk about Eddie Carr's Carcass. Now, we all know Eddie Carr from the Lost World movie, right? Everyone remembers him as the guy who was ripped in half by the two T-Rexes, saving the crew in the trailer. And you would be correct, but in the novel, his death is completely different, and in my eyes, far more horrific and tragic. You see, in the novel, Eddie is much younger, and he's kind of like an innocent assistant to all the team, and he is the one who actually brings the injured juvenile to the trailers. Not Sarah or Malcolm, literally Eddie. He is also the one who takes the kids to the high hide. But in the novel, he doesn't go back down and get attacked by a T-Rex. Something completely different happens. You see, what happens next among the most brutal passages in the entire book, hell, in the entire novel series. You see, after Eddie brought the Tyrannosaurus infant back to the trailer, he decided himself, Thorn and the children would then head to the high hide for safety. That's when a pack of velociraptors actually attack the high hide with all of them in it. Eddie attempts to beat them back with a metal pipe or pole. However, a velociraptor grabs this pole while Eddie is holding it and wrenches him and the pole out of the nest. And well, I think you know what's coming next, but let me read the extract from the book. One of the raptors caught the strut in its jaws and jerked it hard. Eddie lost his balance, twisted and fell backwards, toppling over the side. He cried "no" as he fell. Immediately all the animals dropped down to the ground. They heard Eddie screaming in the night. The raptors snarled. Levine stood in the center of the high hide, frozen with terror. The raptors no longer jumping, no longer trying to climb the structure. He heard them down on the ground, snarling. He heard the snap and crunch of bones. Levine went to the railing and looked down. In the light of the red flare, he saw 3 raptors, dragging what remained of Eddie's body towards the jungle. They paused frequently to fight over it, snapping at each other, but they still managed to haul it away. Now, I know you're expecting some graphic description of what happened to Eddie, but it's not the fact that what happened to him, it's the aftermath of what's happened to Eddie, his carcass. You see, that isn't the end of Eddie's story. Sure, the raptors had got him, and they start to drag off his remains to their nest. But throughout the book, these raptors are carrying Eddie's dead carcass around the entire jungle as they continue to chase the rest of the squad. I mean, at one point the raptors are chasing Kelly and Sarah through the woods, and they're still dragging Eddie's mangled corpse through the jungle. I mean, this poor guy, the group had heard him scream while he was eaten alive, and then in this extended chase sequence, Sarah and Kelly see the pack continuing to drag his remains, or what's left of Eddie's body, through the fields and the woods. The poor, poor man. What a haunting image that's ingrained in my mind. But we're not done there. You see, there is a death which is described in a graphic way, and that's the death of Howard King, who was also killed by velociraptors just before Eddie Carr. And believe it or not, this actually inspired the "stay out of the long grass" scene in the Lost World movie. And I think it's better if I just read it directly from the novel and listen to it in its entirety. So here we go. Howard King backed away from the river, moving deeper into the tall grass. Then he turned and ran. He was chest deep in grass and running hard, gasping for breath, when suddenly another lizard's head rose up in front of him. Hissing and snarling, he dodged, changed direction, but suddenly the nearest lizard leapt in the air. It jumped so high its body cleared the grass. He could see the entire animal flying through the air, its 2 hind legs raised to pounce. He glimpsed curved dagger-like claws. King turned again, and the lizard shrieked as it landed on the ground behind him and tumbled away in the grass. King ran on. He was energized by pure fear. Behind him, he heard the lizard snarling. He ran hard. Ahead was another 20 yards of grassy clearing, and then the jungle began again. He saw the trees, big trees. He could climb one and get away, but off to the left, he saw another lizard moving diagonally across the clearing toward him. King could only see the head above the grass. The lizard seemed to be moving incredibly fast. He thought, I'm not gonna make it, but he would try. Panting, lungs soaring, he sprinted for the trees. Only 10 more yards now, he thought. His arms pumped, his legs churned. His breath came in ragged gasps, and then something heavy struck him from behind, forcing him to the ground, and he felt searing pain down his back. And he knew it was the claws. They dug into the flesh of his back. As he was knocked down, he hit the dirt hard. He tried to roll, but the animal on his back held on. He could not move. He was pinned down on his stomach, hearing the animal snarl behind him. The pain in his back was excruciating, dizzying. And then he felt the animal's hot breath on the back of his neck, and he heard the snorting breath. And his terror was extreme. Then suddenly a kind of lassitude, a deep and welcome sleepiness. It took him. Everything became slow, as if he was in a dream. He could see all the blades of grass in the ground, in the front of his face. He saw them with a kind of languid intensity. And he almost did not mind the sharp pain in his neck. He almost did not care that his neck was in the animal's hot jaws. It seemed to be happening to someone else. He was many miles away. He had a moment of surprise when he felt the bones of his neck crunching loudly. And then blackness. Nothing. Don't look, Fawn said, turning Arby away from the railing on the high hide. Don't look! But the kids watched, in silence. For me, Crichton's really putting you in King's shoes. You're feeling as if you're there, it's happening to you. Very similar to Nedry and to Wu. Sure, it didn't have the gruesome aspect, but it was chilling nonetheless. And it's something we don't really hear talked about all too often. We all know of Dennis Nedry's death, sure, but King's? Eddie Carr's? But we're not finished yet. You see, there's someone I really want to talk about, and again, I don't hear it spoken about all too often, overshadowed by Nedry, and that's Ed Regis. And to sum his personality up, he was a cowardly person and even helped cover up the death of InGen workers in Jurassic Park. But the way he actually dies is at the hand of a juvenile T-Rex. And it's not like you'd think, you think the T-Rex a big baddie, roaring, chomps down in one. Well, this isn't the case here. The juvenile T-Rex actually hunts Ed Regis quietly. No roaring, no huge footsteps, nothing. Ambushes him and then plays with its food. And again, for full effect, I'm going to read directly from the novel because it sums it up best. Please listen to it in its entirety and then let's chat about it at the end. The attack came from the left. The juvenile roared as it swung its head forward, knocking Regis flat to the ground. He yelled and scrambled to his feet, but the tyrannosaur pounced, and it must have pinned him with his hind leg, because suddenly Regis wasn't moving. He was sitting up in the path, shouting at the dinosaur and waving his hands at it, as if he could scare it off. The young dinosaur seemed perplexed by the sound and movement coming from its tiny prey. The juvenile bent its head over, sniffing curiously, and Regis pounded on the snoot with its fist. Get away, back off, go on, back off. Regis was shouting at the top of his lungs, and the dinosaur backed away, allowing Regis to get to his feet. Regis was shouting, yeah, you heard me, back off, get away, as he moved away from the dinosaur. The juvenile continued to stare curiously at the odd, noisy little animal before it, but Regis had gone a few paces. It lunged and knocked him down again. It's playing with him, Grant thought. Hey! Regis shouted as he fell, but the juvenile did not pursue him, allowing him to get back to his feet. He jumped to his feet and continued backing away. You stupid... Back! Back! You heard me, back! He shouted like a lion tamer. The juvenile roared, but it did not attack, and now Regis edged towards the trees and the high foliage to the right. In another few steps, he would be in hiding. Back, you, back, Regis shouted, and then, at the last moment, the juvenile pounced and knocked Regis flat on his back once more. Cut that out, Regis yelled, and the juvenile ducked his head, and Regis began to scream. No words, just high-pitched screams. The scream cut off abruptly. When the juvenile lifted its head, Grant saw ragged flesh in its jaws. The juvenile's head snapped up, and it looked towards the top of the hill. Tim picked up the goggles as Grant grabbed both the children's hands and began to run. You see, for me, this really confirms the animalistic nature of the T-Rex. I did a video a few weeks back talking about the T-Rex and how she was actually playing with Grant. That's the reason she didn't attack him. She could see him perfectly. It wasn't the fact that she couldn't see him if he didn't move. She was just playing with her food. And this is exactly what's happening with Ed Regis. Ed Regis is literally treating this juvenile T-Rex like some type of naughty dog. The only difference here is it's a dinosaur, not a dog. And I mean, even dogs are known to take down human beings. So why does he think this is going to work with the T-Rex? Well, a juvenile T-Rex at that. I had a great comment which summed up the T-Rex a few days ago with, she was kind of like a cat with Alan Grant, playing with their food a little bit, and that really stuck with me. And to me, these deaths we've talked about today are horrifying in their own right. Sure, they're not as gruesomely described as they are in the Jurassic Park novel, but the two from The Lost World give us more of an aftershot, the harsh reality of what actually happens to the body after death, what the raptors are actually doing to their prey, and the animalistic nature of these animals. They're not pets. But what do you think? Did you know of any of these deaths? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for plenty more Jurassic horror content like this. There's plenty more on the channel, and I highly recommend watching these videos which are on screen now. I know you'll enjoy them, and I'm very proud of them. And let me know your thoughts in a comment, because I read every single comment, and if you've got an idea for a video, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Massive thanks to the members who are on screen now. You guys keep the power on in the park. With an extra special thanks to DVM Wannabe 1018, Hammer Time, and our Jurassic CEO, Joseph Frost Ghost. Thank you guys. And if you come across a velociraptor out in the open, could your day get any worse? You bet Jurassic can. Catch you later.